चल नहीं रहा मेरा फंस गया। दरवाजा खोलियो मैं यार।
Yes. Sarthak, membership operator. These are the rules. So this is to check that whether first operand is a member of second operand or not. So there are few constraints. So first operand should be a value, and the second operand should be a sequence of either of sequence type, set type, or dictionary type. And if the second operand is of string, then we check whether the first operand is substring of the second operand or not. If the second operand is dictionary, then we check that the first operand appear as key in the second operand or not. If the second operand is tuple, list, range, or frozen set, then we check whether the first operand appear in the second operand or not. So these are the rules. So just to illustrate, I want to demonstrate that suppose K is one of the key that I want to check whether it appears in the dictionary or not. So if K, say key is there, and let's say I assign this key value ABC, and I make another key say L, and I assign it 27, and if I execute it, so it will say true because this key appears in this dictionary. Similarly, if I have a string say ABC, and then I say that if this is in hello ABC, then it will say true because ABC is substring of that. So I hope that I have clarified about the membership operator. Tamanna, when will we get study material that you have to check with your organizers? Then Aman, why list is not used as key in the dictionary? Aman, there is an important rule that the key of the dictionary must be of immutable type. Since dictionaries are mutable sequences, so we cannot do that. That we have already discussed with. I hope I am clear. Mutable, they are not allowed. So Ekant, walrus operator, we have already discussed. Walrus operator is new addition in Python 2.3.8, and that is used for assignment of a value in a sub expression. There are few constraints that we have already discussed. So suppose if I make use of if a is equal to 3 and I write some statement, say print hello, I will not be able to do that. I will not be able to do that because a is equal to 3 is statement. So if I execute it, I will get invalid syntax. But if I want to assign value to 3 and I want to make this a equal to 3 as expression, I have to make use of walrus operator. If I do that, so I will get hello, and suppose I print it, so this will start working. And if I want to print value of a also, I can do that here also, print a also, so it will say what is value of a. So hello and 3 is the value. So walrus operator is evaluation of sub expressions can be done, can be given a name, and that is with the help of walrus operator. Sir, doubt in line number 25. Tarun, if you can clarify which line you are referring to. 25 is which line number? I'm unable to get. Tarun, If you can clarify the line, which line you are referring to, 25. Is there any other doubt, students? Okay, so should we start, Dr. Aman?
Sure, sir, you can start.
Okay, so welcome all. Welcome to session 6 of day 3. So in this session, we will focus upon statements, and we have already covered with expressions till the last session. So I just want to re-emphasize that expressions as such, they do not have any independent existence in your language. If you want to execute them, you must convert them into statements. So till now, without your knowing that 2 plus 3 is being converted into statement, that's why we are executed it. So we have been doing it, but now for the sake of the understanding, I just want to tell you that when expression is terminated with new line character, or when expression is terminated with semicolon, it has been converted to statement. So only statements, which are the smallest logical entity that can independently exist in a Python program, they have the existence. Statements have the existence, independent existence, but expressions do not. So no entity smaller than statement, which is expressions, variable, literals, identifiers, they cannot independently exist in Python program unless and until they are converted into statements. So to convert an expression into statement, you have to terminate it with semicolon, or you have to terminate it with new line character. Like in this case, this 2 plus 3, which is an expression, but to execute it, we have to convert it into statement. And once we terminate it with new line and execute it, so this becomes expression statement. We can also terminate it with semicolon and execute it. So the output is not coming when we terminate it with semicolon. So, but we can print, but there will be no error once we have executed it. So statements, they are classified according to different criteria. The two criteria which we look at is based upon the number of constituent statements and depending upon their role. Depending upon the number of constituent statements, the statements are classified as either simple statements or compound statements. So simple statements are those statements which consist only of a single statement within a single logical line. So I'm just reiterating, simple statement consists of single statement and is comprised within single logical line, while compound statement consists of other statements. It consists of various statements. So list is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4. This is simple statement, simple assignment statement to be very precise. And this is one this is constituted in one simple logical line as well as physical line. So it is important to understand what physical line means and what logical line means. I am just putting the line numbers now. So you look at it. This is one line in the editor or in the code cell. So this is one physical line. And because my statement is comprised within this line, so this is logical line also. But look at this code cell now. This is made up of 4 physical lines. Physically there are 4 lines, but my statement is terminated when this closing bracket, square bracket, is encountered. So this much is a single logical line. So a list is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, and the closing bracket is one statement, one single logical line. Logically it is one, but physically, because it is occurring in 4 different lines, so there are 4 physical lines. So simple statement is comprised within single logical line although it may be in different physical lines. So this A is equal to, A list is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, consists of one logical line but 4 physical lines, and physical lines, they are joined, they are concatenated either by making use of explicit line joining rules or implicit line joining rules. So in this case, 4 physical lines, they are joined by implicit line joining rules when they appear within square brackets or any bracket. So implicit line joining rule is applicable. Now look at this case. B expression is equal to 1 plus 2 star plus 3, 4. There are 2 physical lines, but these lines have been joined by using explicit line joining rule. This backslash character is used for line joining. So when we execute it, so there would be no error, and this becomes one logical line. So here C is equal to int 3, D is equal to 4. There are two logical lines, there are 2 physical lines. Now when I concatenate them, I put semicolon. Now there are 2 logical lines within one single physical line. Within one line, I have written 2 statements, and 2 statements, they are separated by semicolon. So there are 2 logical lines within one physical line. Now there are, in this next cell, I have demonstrated that there are 2 logical lines within one physical line. So I hope the concept of the physical line and the logical line is clear to you. If it is clear, put yes or no in your chat box. So physical line means how many lines there are in the your editor code cell, and logical lines, how many statements they relate to, that is the issue. Now compound statement consists of one or more statements, and the constituent statement can itself be either simple or compound. So there are few important rules which we must understand about compound statements. Compound statement consists of one or more clauses. So there are clauses in compound statement, and a clause consists of header and a group of statements, a group of one or more statements, which is known as suit. So the execution of the suit of the compound statement depends upon the clause header. So look at this statement. This is one statement. This much is one statement, but this is a compound statement. The statement is if statement. So if statement consists of various clauses. So in line number 1, there is in line number 1 to 3 there is if clause, and line number 4 to 6 there is else clause. Now if clause consists of if header, which is written in line number 1, and if clause consists of if suit, which is written within lines 2 and 3. So this is if this is if clause, and this is if header of the clause. A clause consists of header and suit, and this is if suit. If suit is in lines 2 and 3. This is else header. This is else clause. Else header is in line 4, and else header, and this is else suit. Else suit is in lines 5 and 6. So compound statement consists of clauses. Number of clauses can be there, at least one clause is required. Clause consists of header and suit. So this is if header, this is if suit, this is else header, this is else suit. The execution of the suit depends upon its header. So different type of clauses can occur, like for, if, elif, else, try, except, and every clause is terminated with colon. So clause is terminated with colon. Another rule is there that a clause header must have same indentation level. So if compound statement is there which consists of say number of clauses, then all the clause headers must be having same indentation level. I will not be able to write this. Now if my if header is a different indentation, my else got a different indentation level. If I start doing it, I will get error. Reason being is the indentation level of else suit must be same as the indentation level of the if clause. Similarly, the indentation level of all the statements within a suit must be same. If I start doing it like this, I will start getting error, indentation error. The indentation of all the statements within a suit must be the same. So this print must have the same indentation level as my print statement above. So this must have the same indentation level. So a clause suit can have one or more simple statements or compound statements. If suit consists of simple statements, they can appear on the same physical line. For example, in this case, this is my clause header. This is if suit. Sorry. Since if suit consists of simple statements which are semicolon separated, so they can come on the same physical line. But remember, two clauses cannot come on the same line. If I execute it, it will work perfectly fine. But if I put this else clause on the same line, that is not allowed. Two clauses cannot come on the same physical line. So else will not be able to come on the same line. If I do that, it will result in error. So clause has to be on separate line. Same indentation level has to be there. But if the suit consists of simple statements, they can come on the same physical line separated by semicolon. So these are the important rules about compound statements. Look at the compound statement. This A is equal to this. Line number 2 is simple statement, assignment statement. 3 is simple statements. 4 is simple statement. Then there is another compound statement which spans from line number 5 till 14. So this is one if statement. Now this if statement, this is the if clause, if header. Its suit consists of if statement. So this is another statement. So a compound statement consists of various statements in their suit. Now the suit is consisting of another compound statement, and because it is if statement, so what I will say is that if is nested within if, and so on. So execution, if I execute it, so I will be able to check what is the first number, what is the second number, and what is the third number. So it will tell me what is the smallest number. So this is the code to check the smallest, and we have used compound statements, we have used if statement. So depending upon whether your statement have one single statement or constituent statements, we categorize them into simple statements or compound statements. Now look at how we categorize them depending upon their role. Depending upon their role, we categorize them as expression statements, name management statements, flow control statements, exception handling statements, and type definition statements and pass statements. Look at expression statement first. As I already told, when expression is terminated with new line or semicolon, it forms expression statement. And expression statement is a simple statement that is used to compute value, or that is used to call a function or create object. So when expression statement is executed in interactive shell like our code cells, so it computes a value. If it computes a value that is not none, so the computed value is automatically converted to string using the representation function wrapper and is printed on the interactive shell. So look at this. This is a function call. Len is a function which computes the length of the sequence given to it. So it computes the value. The length of ABC is 3. The number of characters in ABC are 3. And since 3 is a none value, so it is converted to string. So 3 gets converted into string automatically by wrapper function, which is printable representation. So it converts 3 into printable representation, and if I execute it, I will get 3 as result. If I put empty string, so when I execute it, so it will say that none is the length, so none is the value, so I will get 0. So name management statements are those statements which are associated with the identifiers, which are associated with management of the names identifiers. So first statement that we will category is used for binding names with data objects. So we have discussed that we can conveniently refer to and manipulate data objects by binding names with them. So that we have already discussed, and to associate name with data object, we made use of assignment statements. So now we will look in detail 3 different type of assignment statements: simple assignment statement, augmented assignment statement, and annotated assignment statement. So simple assignment statement is used to bind or rebind name to a value and to modify attributes of mutable objects. The syntax of the assignment statement is target list is assigned expression list. We will look at their constituent elements in detail. So on the left side of assignment, there can be a target list. Now target list consists of one or more comma separated targets. So it can be a list, target list, and it can be one or more comma separated targets. Don't confuse this word list with the list data type. Target list means that it is comma separated list of targets. It has nothing to do with the list data type that we have already discussed. So target can be identifier or it can be expression involving attribute reference, subscription, or slicing operator. And on the right side, we can have expression list consisting of expressions within square brackets or without brackets. Now look at what does this mean. This means that I can have a comma b comma c, and on the other side I can have 1 comma 2 comma 3. So now if you look at it, on the left side of assignment there is a target list. Target list is comma separated list of identifiers. So on the right side there are expressions which are again comma separated. So they have nothing to do with the list data type. This is what we want to say. If I execute it, so to A we will give value 1, to B we will get value 2, to C we will give value 3. So if I want to check what is ABC, A comma B comma C, so it will give me 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So if the target list consists of single identifier which is not available in current scope, the expression list is evaluated to an object and identifier is bound to it. Now look at it. What does it mean? If I put a single identifier, rule number 2 says if the target list consists of single identifier, then the expression list is evaluated to a data object. So 1, 2, 3 evaluated to data object which is a tuple, and then A is assigned to that data object. So A labels that data object. So it will become, if I print what A becomes, so A becomes tuple. So third rule says that if target list is list of identifiers like we discussed previously, A, B, C, then the expression list on the right side or the expression on the right side must evaluate to iterable object, and the number of items in the iterable object must be same as number of identifiers in the target list on the left side. Look at this example. I have ABC on the left side. My right side is an iterable object, but number of items in the iterable object is more, does not match the number of items on the left side. If I execute it, so I will start getting error. Too many values to unpack. So the number of values on the right side, they are more. I cannot assign it to 3 elements on the left side. So I will start getting error. If the number of items are less, I will start getting error. So it says that the number of identifiers on the left side, they must match the number of items on the right side. So now if I have made 3 and if I have executed it, so it got executed. So it has executed. So I got 1, 2 and 3. Okay. So I want to reiterate the rule. On the left side, you can have target list. On the right side, you can have an iterable object. The number of iterable objects, the number of items in the iterable object must be same as the number of items on the left side in the target list. If they do not match, you will get value error. Like in this case, there are 2 on the right side, there are 3 on the left side, you get value error. Now in PEP 3132, there has been an addition which is known as extended iterable unpacking. If the values on the right does not match the values on the left, then you can use extended iterable unpacking to do the assignment. In extended iterable unpacking, you prefix asterisk to one of the target in the target list. Suppose there are 5 items in the iterable object on the right side. If you try to work with it, you will get error. You cannot assign it. This assignment is not possible. But extended iterable unpacking says that you put one asterisk to one of the target, and if you do that and if I execute it, this starts working fine, because now to this star target, this is known as star target, to which we have a prefixed star asterisk. So to star target can catch 0 or more items. So now 1 is assigned to A and 5 is assigned to C, and rest of the items which are 2, 3, 4, they will be assigned to B. So that's why when I printed ABC, A gives 1, C gives 5, rest of the items, they were assigned to B as a list. So there are few rules regarding extended iterable unpacking. One of the rule is that in a target list on the left side, yes, Aman, B becomes list, and this is the rule that B becomes list when extended iterable unpacking is used. So there can be only one target, there can be only one star target on the left side. If I start putting star C, now if I start running it, I will get error. Why? Because I have made 2 starred targets on the left side. 2 star targets cannot come on the left side. In the target list, there can be only one star target. So writing star B and star C is not correct. If I remove star from B, put star on C, and then I execute it, tell me quickly in the chat box what is the output that I expect. A comma B comma star C is equal to 1 2 3 4 5. What is the output that I expect? A catches 1, B catches 2, rest of the items they are caught by C. So yes, you will get 1 2 3 4 5 is the answer. So there can be only one star target in the target list. The number of items in the evaluated target iterable object should be more than or equal to the number of targets in the target list minus 1. Look at it now. So it says that if there is one target, the number of items can be equal to, at least equal to, the number of non-starred targets. So if that happens, now if I run that, A will get 1, B will get 2, C will be empty. So C will be empty. But if I further reduce it, now number of unstarred targets, they are 2, but number of elements in the iterable object on the right side is 1. If I do it, it will start giving me error. So what is the minimum number that is required? Minimum number required is equal to the number of unstarred targets. What is the maximum number? There is no constraint about it. Now, if there are more than number of items, if there are more than the number of elements or the targets on the left, then 1 is assigned to A, 2 is assigned to B, the rest 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 will be assigned to C. So this is the rule. So target list we got empty, and if there are fewer than number of unstarred targets, we will get error. So students, we can execute these code cells. ABC is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 quickly. What will we get? We will get error. If we have made A star BC is equal to 1 2 3 4 5, A will get 1, C will get 5, 2 3 4 in B. If I make 1 2, so A will get 1, C will get 2, B will be empty. If I make A star B is equal to 1, I will get error because at least 2 items are required on right side, but I am giving 1. So that is the error. So now target list can also have expressions which is known as primary expression. On the left side, I can also give expression. Why this is expression? A dot real is expression. Why I said that this is an expression? Can anybody tell me in the chat box why A dot real is an expression? Because it involves attribute reference operator. So this operator is involved, and when operator is involved, so it becomes expression. So A dot real is an expression because attribute reference operator is there. So when this happens, this must be a modifiable. This must be modifiable. So A is complex number, A plus 2 plus 3J, and I am trying to modify the attribute real of A. But if I try to do that, I will get error that the attribute is readable only. So you can modify that if it is modifiable. Then very important concept that assignment statements can be changed. We have already discussed that you will be able to write down target 1 is equal to target 2 is equal to target 3 is equal to target n is equal to expression. This is syntactically valid and this is known as chained assignment. But how this chained assignment will work? Look at it. Firstly, the expression will be evaluated. Firstly, expression is evaluated. Then the result of evaluation of this expression is assigned to target 1. Directly it is assigned to target 1. And then target 1 is assigned to target 2, then to target 3, and then so on. So the behavior of chain assignment is Python is not same as that in C language. And this is different because Python assignment is not an operator. It does not result in any value. While in C language, assignment is an operator. It results in assigned value. So when expression A is equal to 3, in C language it is written, it not only assigns 3 to A, but it also results in A, which is not the case in Python. So it is important to note that target 1 is equal to target 2 is equal to expression is also not equal to target 1 is equal to expression and target 2 is equal to expression. Let's look at this concept. Now A is equal to B is equal to 1, 2 is written. So this is chained assignment. So how it will be evaluated? Firstly, 1, 2, the list is evaluated. So the result comes out to be 1, 2 list. And then this is assigned to A. So data object is created and A start referring to that. Then A is assigned to B. That means B also start referring to the same data object. So when we executed it, so print A will give 1, 2 list. Print B will also give 1, 2 list. And print A is equal to B is giving true because they refer to the same list. So you will get this output. But when A is equal to 1, 2 is written, B is equal to 1, 2 is written, if I print it, so I will not get the same result. I will get false. Can anybody tell me why that happens? Because list is a mutable object. When mutable objects they are created, even if they are having same value, they are created separately. That's why when A is equal to 1, 2 is written, data object 1, 2 is created. Data object 1, 2 is created and A refers to that. And when B is equal to 1, 2 is written, so 1, 2 is created and A refers to that, and B is equal to 1, 2 is created and B refers to that. This is important because list is mutable. If it would have been immutable, look at it. If I start doing it like this, A is equal to 10, B is equal to 10, print A, print B, print A is B, what will I get? I will get 10, 10 true. Why? Look at this. Why? The reason being is integer is immutable. So when immutable objects are created, since you cannot change the value of this data object, so Python will assign A and B to same. But since list is mutable, so when they are created separately, Python will also create separately because it knows that you might change the value of the element within the list. So that's why this happens. So when this is occurring, look at it. Chained assignment gives you the different result, which is different from longhand assignment. So target 1 is equal to target 2 is equal to expression is not equal to target 1 is equal to expression and target 2 is equal to expression, especially in cases of mutable objects like list. I hope that is clear to you. If there is any query till now, I'll be happy to address that. Kindly put in your chat window, or if you have got this, kindly say yes or no. Okay, I am getting few new names now. I'm happy to see that. Okay, let's move on. So the next type of assignment statement that we will look at is known as augmented assignment statement. So in augmented assignment statement, we have operator and assignment in the same time. So augmented assignment statement, there is a binary operation involved and the assignment done at the same time, like addition assigned plus equal to, subtraction assigned minus equal to, multiplication assigned, this is star equal to, let me correct it, this is star equal to, multiplication assigned, division assigned, floor division assigned, modulus assigned, exponential assigned, right hand shift assigned, left hand shift assigned, bitwise AND assigned, bitwise OR assigned, bitwise XOR assigned. So these are augmented assignment statements, and they can be written as longhand assignment statement. Target is equal to target operator and the expression list. So x plus 1 is equal to, can be written as, not equal to, it can be rewritten as x is equal to x plus 1. And it is important to note that augmented assignment statement and corresponding longhand assignment statement does not result in equal effects. Augmented assignment statement, the target is evaluated only once, and wherever possible the actual operation is performed in place. But in longhand assignment that is not the case. Look at this example. So list 1 is equal to 1 2 3, list 2 is assigned list, and list 1 is augmented assignment, addition augmentation, plus equal to 4 5 6. You print the value. So in this case what will happen? So 1 2 3 is created, data object is created, and this comes at some memory, say 8 5 4 6 3 2, and this is made list 1. So this makes this effect. List 2 is made list 1, so it is equivalent to saying that label list 2 is also placed here to this data object. Now list 1 plus equal to 4 5 6. So wherever possible the operation is carried out in place. That means the list is modified and 4 5 6 is appended to it in place. And when we print list 1 and when we do list 2, so it will give me, so the output that I am expecting here is 1 2 3 4 5 6 for both the cases. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 for both the cases is the expected output, because we are doing it with list 1 and list 2, and they will give us the same. So let's execute it. So they will give us the same. Now look at the next. What will happen? Look at the next example here. What will happen? 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 comes in the memory, creates data object, and it is list 1. This is okay. List 2 is equal to list 1, so list 2 is also coming here, list 2 also comes here, this is okay. List 1 is equal to list 1 plus 4 5 6. Now when this happens, another object which is 1 2 3 4 5 6 is created. Very first day we have discussed that this is not the right way to modify the elements of the list. Although list is a mutable object, this is not the right way to do that. If you do it in this way, another object with 1 2 3 4 5 6 is created, and now list 1 refers to it. So when I print list 1, I will get 1 2 3 4 5 6, and when I print list 2, I will get 1 2 3. So if I execute this code, I will get 1 2 3 4 5 6, and I will get 1 2 3. So in nutshell, augmented assignment and the longhand assignment, they does not result in the same always. So if it is clear, say yes, otherwise say no, then I will be happy to clarify that. Okay, so look at annotated assignment statements. Now we have already discussed that Python is a dynamically typed language. Okay, so we keep on creating the data objects, we keep on associating identifiers with them, we keep on changing them. Sometimes we need to keep track of what is the current data type which is associated with the identifier. No declaration in this case is done. Remember, it is not like statically typed language where you have been declaring the identifiers and then assigning the values to it. Here identifiers are associated with your data objects. So sometimes if you want to keep track of, you can make use of annotated assignment statement, where the syntax is target is equal to expression1 is optionally assigned expression2. So what we can write is age colon int is equal to 10 to indicate that my age is integer. Previously it has been done, previously annotation has been done with the help of comments. We have been writing that age is equal to int, but now Python allow you annotated assignment where you can write age colon int is equal to 10, age colon string. Now I have changed the data type of it. Age started referring to the string, so I have written that age colon string is equal to 10. Then it is also possible to create name, to declare name by making use of annotated assignment statement. So age group is equal to tuple. Age group is now of tuple type. But note that we have declared it, we have not defined it. So if I start referring to what is age group now, if I start referring to what is age group now, it will give me error. It will give me error. It is not defined. Definition of identifier only occurs when it has been assigned a value. So since it has not been assigned value, it gave me error. Now I have assigned it a tuple, so I know that age group is tuple, age is string, and here age is integer. So that is the purpose of annotated assignment statement, to associate types with them. Am I clear till now? Any doubt to anyone? Kindly let me know in the chat box so that I can address to it. So then we can also, if we have associated names, we can also deassociate names, debind the names from the data objects, and that we can do with the help of delete statement. So the next statement that we are going to discuss is delete. So look at it. Now what we have done, repeat. Can you repeat last statement? Yes, Yashika. So what we have to do is, suppose I am using age. Now age is 10. Age refers to integer data type. Later in my program, I start referring to age as 10. I start referring to age as string. So when we have to maintain the code, when we have to read the code, we want that we keep track of what type of data types they are referring to. So previously it has been tracked by using comments. So we keep on writing simultaneously that age was previously referring to int. Now age has started referring to string. So that type of thing. But now annotations have been allowed as a part of statement. To do that, you write colon and then write the type int, colon and then write the type string. So that type of statement is now allowed, and this is known as annotated assignment statement, where type annotations are included in the assignment statement. And if you use this, it is also possible to associate name with a type without assigning it a value. It is also possible to do that. You can do the assignment later on, but previously it was not possible. So previously you will not be able to do age int. It will give you undefined name. This is not defined. So that is the concept. Am I clear, Yashika? Have I successfully addressed your query? Okay, thank you. So we can also debind the names by making use of delete. Look at a is equal to 10. What I have done, I have created 10 list and I have associated name a with it. Then as I told you, Python make use of reference count. It has been counting the references to it. A is referring to this data object at 1836453 memory location. When I made b is equal to a, so it starts referring b here. When I delete it, so when I delete it, I have deleted this label and I am reference counting it. So if you do it and execute it, So you will get 232. So there is a Ekant imports this is a module that we are importing. You will come to know later on, and you will also come to later on why one reference count is additional. But for the time being, I just want to demonstrate that previously there is reference to when you assigned another identifier to it, reference increased by 1. When you deleted it, you have debound the name from this, and the reference again reduced. So this is just I want to focus upon that with the delete you can debind a name from a data object. This is a module that is important. You will come to know about later on, and reference counting also you will learn in later in the workshop. Okay. So next statement that we have to discuss is flow control statements. By default, the control flows in sequential order, top to bottom. But if you want to change, you have the branching statements, which can be conditional branching or unconditional branching. Shreyas, you will come to know about reference counting in detail later. Let's focus on the next part of the statement. Branching is conditional or unconditional, and iteration statements. In conditional branching, you check the statement, you check whether there is a condition that is occurring true or not. Depending upon that, you are taking a decision and making a branch, jumping. In unconditional branching, you without checking any condition, you are making a jump. So conditional branching statement is if statement in Python, and unconditional branching statement is like break, continue, and return. Let's focus on conditional branching. So if statement is there, followed by expression, followed by suit. There can be multiple elif clauses also, and there can be one optional else clause. So in if statement, there is mandatory if clause, followed by optional elif clauses, followed by optional else clause. So how it gets evaluated? If expression is evaluated, if it comes out to be true, if clause is executed. If it comes out to be false, elif expressions are evaluated till it evaluates to true. The elif clause whose expression evaluates to true, that suit is executed. Else, if all of the expressions evaluate to false and else clause is present, else suit is executed. This is the basic rule. So look at the execution of if. So this is a program which is for illustrating the working of if. So we want to take a number and we put it in A. We take another number, we put it in B. Now if statement is present, it says that if A is equal to B, so this printf will be executed. If A is not equal to B, elif is present, elif clause is present, its expression is evaluated. If it evaluates to true, its suit is evaluated. If it evaluates to false, no other elif clause is present, then else suit is executed. And this is the statement which is present next to if statement. So if I do it, if I execute it, so it says that enter number A 12, enter number B say 14. So A is less than B. So A is equal to B is false. This is not executed. A less than B is true. This is executed. This is skipped. And this is the statement which is next to if statement. This has to execute in any case. So this is a program to show that whether it is even or odd. So if I execute it, enter number 16, it says it is even. Look at the modification that I am going to do in this case, and I want to check whether the syntax remains valid or not. So what I am doing is, this is if header, this is if header, and this is if suit. I am trying to put if suit on the same physical line as if header. So I am trying to do that, and I am trying to do this. Whether this remains valid or not, quickly write Y or N in your chat box. Vishakha says valid, 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 valid. So this remains valid. This remains valid. And if I execute it, so it will say odd. The reason for the validity is that if suit consists of simple statements only, you can put it on the same physical line as that of clause header. Now I am going to make another modification in the code, and I am trying to put else clause on the same line. Is this valid or not? Quickly tell in the chat box. So is this valid or not? No. Why? What is the reason? What is the reason? Quickly write the reason also. No is okay, but can anybody write? Yes, yes, yes. Two clauses, yes, Shrey. Two clauses cannot come in the same physical line. If you do that, it leads to the syntax error. Two clauses, else is a clause. Else is a clause. Two clauses cannot come in same physical line. It has to be on separate lines. So I have to put on separate line. Now is this valid? The modification that is coming on the screen, is this valid? Look at it carefully. No. Why? 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 Why it is not valid? If I execute it, it gives error. Yes, indentation is not there. All the clauses must have same indentation. So this, now this is valid or not? I have indented correctly now. I have, yes, now it is valid. If I execute it, so it will give me the result. So similar is this. Now unconditional branching, there are three statements: break statement, you know, continue statement, and return statement. Break statement is used to terminate execution of loop. Okay, so break statement is if you want to terminate loop, you make use of break statement. Continue statement is if you want to skip one iteration of loop, you make use of continue statement. And return statement is if you want to return control from function, then you make use of return statement. We will discuss these statements later after we discuss the iteration statements. So let's look at the iteration statements. Iteration statements, we categorize them into two parts: counter controlled and sequential. Counter controlled and sentinel controlled. So counter controlled is one, and second is sentinel controlled loops. So counter controlled loops are those loops in which there is a counter working. You know how many times you have to execute and you make use of a counter. So while statement is type of counter controlled statement, counter controlled loop. So the syntax of while loop is it consists of while clause followed by while suit. So while clause can have while header, which consists of while keyword followed by expression, then colon, and then while suit. It can optionally have one else suit also. So it can optionally have one else suit also. So else suit is executed when the expression of the while header goes false. So how it works? I reiterate. While statement consists of while clause and optional else clause. While clause consists of while header. While header consists of while keyword followed by expression followed by colon. While suit consists of statements, can be simple, can be compound. And else suit consists of keyword else followed by colon and followed by one or more statements. How it works? Expression is evaluated. If it evaluates to true, suit is executed. If it evaluates to false, it is seen whether else is present or not. If else clause is present, its suit is executed. Now look at it. Now look at the usage of the while. So we took a number, we put that into the number. We initialized factorial by 1. We initialized loop counter, LC is loop counter by 1. We checked whether the loop counter is less than number. till it remain lesser than number, we executed the while suit. In the while suit, we have computed fact and we have modified the loop counter. So there are three things that you must do while using while loop. First thing is initialize loop counter. Initialize loop counter. Second is test loop counter in while header. While header, you test the loop counter. Third is manipulate or modify loop counter in while suit so that test in step 2 eventually becomes false, or returns false. So this is the procedure. So this is where we have initialized loop counter. This is the test of the loop counter. This is the manipulation of the loop counter. These things are required. If you forget to initialize or if you forget to manipulate, your loop may turn into infinite loop. It may happen that your loop may turn into infinite loop if you forget to manipulate. Suppose I stop manipulating it. I remove this. LC is 1. Is LC less than 5? Yes. Multiply it. Then it will again come here. LC less than 5? Yes. So LC will always remain lesser than 5 if I forget to manipulate it. So manipulation is important. You must manipulate within the suit, within the body of the while. So if you execute it, I execute it. What is factorial of 5? 120. What is factorial of 5? 120. So look at it. If you want to find sum of n natural numbers, the same logic. LC is 1. I am keeping track of how many values, how many natural numbers you want, and then the same logic. So if you execute it, I want to find first of 5 natural numbers. I pressed enter. So it says that first of 5 natural numbers is 15. Okay. Like that. Is it okay till now? Anybody having any query regarding the while statement? Put it in the chat box, or otherwise put y or n. Okay. Then the next statement that we are going to work with is for statement. For statement is commonly used to iterate over sequence or iterable objects. So it is used to iterate over elements of sequence or iterable objects. The syntax is for target list in expression followed by suit and optional else clause. So firstly, the expression is evaluated. Expression must evaluate to iterable object. The element of the iterable object, one by one, they are assigned to the target in the target list, and then suit is executed. When the iterable object is exhausted, when the next method of the iterable returns stop iteration exception, then the loop is terminated. So look at it. I want to find sum of elements in a list. So what I want to do, I want to take a list. I want to sum the elements. I'm asking user to enter the elements. Evaluation function will evaluate it and it will be returned as a list. So if I execute it, now if I am giving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so input function is going to return a string. Evaluation function is going to parse the string, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is going to become a tuple. Then the list conversion function is going to convert it into a list. So EList will get the list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Is that okay? So firstly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is string. Input function gives string. Evaluation function converts it into tuple. And then the list function converts this tuple into list, and that is assigned to EList identifier. Okay. Then sum is 0 for element in EList. So now in list, there are number of elements. One by one they are returned and they are assigned to ELE identifier. So firstly 1 is assigned, sum is made 0 plus 1, then it will come here, second element is returned automatically, then 2 is assigned to ELE and then 2 is added and so on. When the elements are exhausted, stop iteration is raised and then the loop terminates. So if I execute it, so what I will get is 15. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 and 15. So as I already told you, when we discussed range, so the purpose of the range is to generate sequence of numbers. So if I want to find out factorial of a number, so I want to find out, say I want to find factorial of 5. So what I want to do is I want to multiply 1 into 2 into 3 into 4 into 5. So I will generate a sequence from 1 to 5 and then I will multiply the elements in the sequence and then I will print the result. So if I do that, so it will print 120. So this is the purpose, and range is most commonly used with 4 that we have already discussed. Look at the sentinel control loop. Sentinel control loop is when you do not know when the loop is going to terminate. It depends upon the user. He may enter 3 inputs, he may enter 5 inputs. Then we make use of sentinel control loops. So in this case, I want to find maximum and minimum from a set of numbers. I run it. It is asking for enter a number. I entered 12. Then it is asking, do you want to enter more? Now it is my choice. I can enter yes or I can enter no. Suppose I want to enter more. So it will ask for enter another number. I will say 16. It will again ask, do you want to enter more? I will say yes. It will ask another number, say I want to enter 23. It will keep on asking, do you want to enter more or not? So now I want to say no, I do not want to enter. Then when I give this n, my loop terminated. So this is sentinel control loop, which depends upon a special value that is known as sentinel value. So this is the choice is my now sentinel value, which I said yes or no. So depending upon that, it terminates and it gives me the result. Nesting of loops, when your while suit or your for suit consists of another loop, which may be either while or for, then we say that loops have been nested. So now here this is for header, this is for suit, and since for suit consists another for loop, so this is nested loop, and if I execute it, it is used to print rows and columns of asterisk. So this is nested for loops. Now the next category of statement that we are going to discuss very quickly is exception handling statement. Errors we have already discussed that can occur in a Python program. It can be parsing error, it can be runtime error. Parsing error is caught by your interpreter, but runtime error that occurs creates problem, and that's why exception occurs. You have already seen index error, value error, that type of exception, zero division error. So we can handle those errors. We can make use of exception handling statements to handle those errors. And the exception handling statement that we have is try statement. The syntax of try statement is try clause followed by its suit. It can have one or more except clauses. It can have optionally else clause or finally clause. Okay, so this is one of the syntax of try, and this is another syntax of try suit, and then finally suit. So I'll switch to the example and then I will discuss. Let's look at it. So what I have done, let's look at this program. Number 1 is equal to number 2. Enter numerator and denominator. I want to divide two numbers and I want to get the result. I execute it. Say one of you entered 12,5. So the program worked fine and it gave me 2.4. That means the program does not have any parsing error as such, because if it would have any parsing error, your interpreter would have caught it and resulted in error. Now parsing wise it is okay, but suppose when you executed it second time, instead of 12,5 you started giving 12,c, and when you entered it, suppose 12,c I give, it is taking, when I gave c it took the value, it's ASCII value. When I entered c, so it is giving me type error. It is giving me type error because division on integer and string is not allowed. Division or integer and string is not allowed. So this is exception. So when you gave one as integer, another as string, you got error. Suppose you execute it again, you gave it as 12 space c, instead of giving comma you started giving space. So it will lead to another syntax error exception, because this led to error. Here this will return 12c and it cannot be assigned to tuple number 1 comma number 2. That's why the error came. When you execute it again, you gave 12,0, it started giving you 0 division error because you cannot divide a number 12 by 0. So different type of exceptions can occur at the runtime depending upon what type of input you are giving. You must handle those. And if you want to handle those, you have to make use of try statement. So here is the try clause. Here is the try clause. The statements in which you want to perform exception handling. In these statements, I want to perform exception handling. So you put these statements within the try suite. So the body of the program that I made previously, I want to catch exceptions that may occur in these statements. I have put them into the try suite. So this is try clause. So try clause is used for exception handling, and the statements in which you want to catch exception, you put them in try suite. Now it is followed by one or more except clauses. So except is followed by, this is the accept clause. This is the accept clause. The accept header consists of keyword accept followed by identifier, which is name of the exception. And this name of the exception should be the subclass of the base exception class. So it can be name error, it can be type error, it can be syntax error, it can be 0 division error, or if I am not able to predict, I keep it blank. So there can be only one accept clause that is not followed by any expression. Otherwise, in a try statement, there can be number of accept clauses. At least one is required, but more than one can be there. And there can be only one accept clause in which there is no expression written. And there can be optionally else clause and finally clause. Okay. Now see how it works. When the try suite is executed, if there is no exception that occurred, only this is executed, none of the accept suite and the else suite is executed. But if exception occurred in the try suite, the exception is seen, what type of exception it is, then it is matched with the expression one by one. Whether it is name error, no. Whether it is type error, no. Whether it is syntax error, no. Whether it is 0 division error, yes. So if 0 division error has occurred, the suite of this accept clause is executed and then program is terminated. If finally clause is present, it is always executed. Look at it now. I run it. Suppose I give 12,0. When number 1 is 12, number 2 is 0, 0 division error is going to occur. So it is caught by this accept clause. And printf 0 division error occurred will be printed. Look at it. When I print it, it says that 0 division error occurred. So this will be executed. none of other except clause will be executed, none of the else clause will not be executed. But suppose there is a finally clause present, print say, it says finally clause, finally is always executed, finally is always executed. Say I run it again, I give 12,0 and I enter it. So zero division, this will be executed, finally is always executed. The intent behind finally is to perform cleanup action. So finally is always executed. Whatever code you have written here, whatever file you want to close, whatever memory you want to clean up, the code is generally written as finally suit. So if I start giving, if I execute it again, if I give 12, C, syntax error will occur because it is not a valid formed tuple. So it will say that syntax error is there and finally it is going to always execute. So 12, C, it will happen. If I start giving now 12, C, string is not a valid operand for division. So it will say type error occurred. So this type of errors we can check with. Now, if you want to club them, if you do not want to create them separately, if you want to club them, you can give them as a tuple of exceptions. Like here, name error, type error, syntax error, zero division error. If any of them occurred, so it will just say that exception occurred. So I execute it 12, C. I press enter. So it will be handled by this. So instead of making them separately, if I have common exception handler, so this exception occurred, this printf statement is known as exception handler here. If I have a common exception handler for multiple type of exceptions, I can club those exceptions and make it as a tuple. Sometimes you want to print the information that has occurred. So now what we have done, we have associated a name as expt. Expt is identifier. So you have associated a name, and in the exception handler you are writing that what type of exception it is, what is its name, and what are its arguments. So if I write it and if I print 12C, so it says that type error occurred due to unspotted operand type for int and str. So this type of information occurred because I have printed the name of the exception. It says that type error. So this name is type error. So this comes here, type error. So this comes in the flush. Argument is this much of the string, unsupported operand type. Harshvir is asking how to rerun program after showing error. Harshvir, I am coming to that point. Just be patient. Look, stay for some time. I will do that. So if I put 12C, it says syntax error occurred, and syntax error occurred due to the following reason. So syntax of break and continue, you look at it. Break is used to break the loop. So if I want to terminate loop in between, I will use break. And continue statement, we will use when we want to terminate iteration of the loop. Now I am coming to the point which Harshvir has asked, how to rerun it. Suppose I want to run a program, I want factorial. So factorial of 5 comes out to be 120. But if I put factorial of -1, so this is an exception. Factorial of negative number, I cannot. So it says that value error, the number must be greater than 0. The value must be greater than 0. And I have put that in a loop. I have put them in a loop while true. I have put it in a loop. So it will ask me again, do you want to enter another number? I will say yes, I want to enter it. Then again I started putting -1. So it will again tell me that number must be greater than 0. And do you want to re-enter? I will say yes. Now I enter 5. So it will say that factorial of 5 is 120. So this is how you rerun the program after showing the error. You have displayed the error, and because you have put it in a loop, so number of times loop will execute, and loop only terminates when you say no. Have I answered you, Harshveer? Have you got this point? Okay, so you have to keep it in a loop. You show the error, you repeat it. So Dhanshu, we are falling short of time. Let us wind up, and then we will see that if there is some time left, we will take the query. Okay. So continuous statement is used to terminate the current iteration of the loop. So if you use this, I enter the elements. So enter the elements like I entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it asked me enter the element to be skipped. Say I entered 2, and then it will print 1, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 is skipped. So in a sequence, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip element, I entered 2. Then it says that if skip in sequence, okay, if skip in sequence, then you are using a loop. When the element is equal to skip, you are continuing. So you are coming back and you are printing it and skipping the sequence. If skip is not in sequence, you are saying that skip is not present in the sequence and you are terminating it. Pass statement is equal to the null statement. Okay, if you write anything and if you just say pass, so it will not do anything. So if you write if 2 is less than 3 and pass, so it will not do anything. So pass is just null statement. So wherever you want statement to be there, but you do not want to perform anything, you can make use of pass statement. So generally it is used as a dummy. So like if I make function ABC and I make pass, so at moment I do not want to create the body of ABC, but later on I will do it. So that's why pass statement is used. It is null statement. Okay, so this is all from today regarding the statements. If there is any doubt about today's session, morning or the afternoon session, I'll be happy to address. Just put it in your chat window. We have only 5 minutes to address query. So if there is any query, anyone want to ask anything, I'll be happy to address. Otherwise, we'll wind up with today's session.
Okay, students, if you have any doubt, you can ask.
हेलो मैम।
हाँ जी
मैम मैंने क्या कहते हैं जो गूगल क्लासरूम है ना, उसपे मेरी डिफरेंट आईडी से लॉगिन हो रखा है। उस पे मेरे को मेल आते हैं और उसी पे ही मेरे सारा वो रखा है, पर मैंने एडिट भी कर दिया यहाँ पे।
अपने ऐसे डाउट्स यू कैन जस्ट ड्रॉप वन ईमेल. Okay, in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
session,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
ask the question related to the sessions. If you have any doubts regarding
Okay.
your Google Classroom or assignments, quizzes,
Yes, ma'am.
anything, you can just drop one email.
Okay.
Sudhanshu is asking, sir, how to try accept in while. Sudhanshu, while suit can have any statement. Since try is a statement, you can put try in while suit. There is no issue about it. Like in the factorial, like if you look at the factorial, I have used try within while. So Sudhanshu, this is your answer. Look at the code in the cell 67. In the body of the while, I have used try. So this is what you are asking for. Sudhanshu Sharma, please provide, what is that? Please provide answer to quizzes as well. What is the role? Wait. So Ankit Vadva, what is the role of accept value? What is the role of accept value error as E? So this is used in exception handling. You are creating exceptions and you are assigning it to the identifier to get the information. Shreya, A star BC is equal to 1, 2. In this, why B is not assigned to? Shreya, the rule is that the star target is going to catch whatever is left. So since A will get 1 and C will get 2, there is nothing which is left for star target. Star target is being assigned 1 or more, 0 or more elements. So since nothing is left after assigning to unstarred targets have priority. So you have to firstly assign to unstarred targets, and after assigning 1 to A and 2 to C, nothing is left. That's why B doesn't get anything, and that's why 2 is not assigned to B. If it would have been a normal target, then it is assigned 1 by 1. So there should be at least 3 elements on the right side. Am I clear, Shreya? Harshvir sir, in conditional branching, could you please tell if statement rules to kept in mind? Harshvir, we have looked at it before. I think it is too general to answer now. Any other query? If any one of you have any other query, we have 1 minute left. So Dr. Aman, I think that there is no other query which is come on the chat. So it's all from my side. If you say, we can wind up.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for this session. Also, in the previous session, we had explained all the basic concept of the Python language very well. I think all the students understand the concepts and they enjoyed the session. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to invite 1 or 2 participants to give the feedback about the sessions that were taken by Dr. Rajay. 1 or more students? Anyone? Aman Goel, you can just keep your mic on and you can share your experience.
Yes, ma'am, the session was very good, and the quality of and efficiency of the teacher is too good, and he explained very well everything and in detailed, and I also liked it very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and thank you, Aman. So Dr. Aman, Dr. Mukesh, and the students, I am not going anywhere. So even if the next sessions are by other experts, so you can of course contact the organizers. Any help that would be required from our side, we will be happy to do that. Not only during this workshop, but later also.
Thank
So
you.
this is what is our objective. Throughout, we are going to help you and support you in whatever way we can do our best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So, like students are asking regarding the notes, we are sharing with the recorded videos on
I
recorded
had,
meeting.
yes, Dr. Aman, I had discussion with Dr. Mukesh.
Okay.
We are going to provide the notes, but they would not be the complete copy of what we have discussed.
Okay.
So we will customize it and we will see whatever we can share, we will do that.
Okay.
That we have already discussed, and I will do that very soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Mukesh, sir. Dr. Mukesh, are you there?
Anji, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Finally, really a great thank to Dr. Ajay Mittal. The sessions really were all good, and I appreciate the effort put by him throughout these 3 days. I, on behalf of the participants as well as the organizing team, thanks Dr. Ajay. And the general query from almost all the participants is about the document sharing. or worksheet sharing. That is just been answered by Dr. Ajay Mittal. Once Dr. Ajay provide the sheets with us, then we definitely are going to put them in Google Drive and we'll be sharing the link of the documents within the group as well as in GoToMeeting chat. So once available, we definitely will be sharing it. And as just shared by Dr. Ajay that he is going to be there whenever required by our participants. So we again, from the deep sense, we thank Dr. Ajay for being a part of this workshop. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Makesh. Thank you, Dr. Aman, and thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. One more statement for the participants to make is that today there will be no quiz. We are going to combine the today's MCQs along with the tomorrow one, and we'll be conducting a combined quiz for these 2 days. So now you are free from today's test. Be ready for tomorrow as the load is going to be doubled, and wish you the best. And if somebody want to ask something or still is having some problem, then he can just share it with us. And needless to say that our attendance sheet is still open. You may mark your attendance if not earlier. If you didn't mark your attendance in the morning, then you may mark it till now. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's fine, Dr. Amandeep?
Yes, sir. It's fine. Any doubts from the students? Sir, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have all finished now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no doubt.
Will
The
the
students are
session
writing.
be conducted on?
That's fine.
Okay, then, if you have no doubts, we are. This is all about for today's session, and we will start the session on tomorrow's morning by 9:45.